Welcome to the Hope Sports Podcast, where high-caliber athletes share about their triumphs and their struggles on their journey toward purpose. I'm your host, Olympic gold medalist Laura Wilkinson. Today, we are speaking with Ingrid Drexel, a professional cyclist from Mexico. Like many of us, Ingrid hopped on a bike as a young kid and found herself inspired by the freedom she felt zipping around town with the wind in her hair. As her love of cycling grew, so did her opportunities. And she's been traveling around the world competing internationally for 8 years now. Her story includes victories, disappointments, and challenges. And she shares it all with us here on today's show. Thanks for joining us. Here we go. Ingrid Drexel, I'm so excited you could join us for the Hope Sports Podcast today.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be able to have a chance to share some of my story with the people that are hearing us. And yeah, thank you.
For those listening that may not be familiar with your story, how did you kind of get started into sports? Like, how did it all begin?
So first of all, my family, like my parents, were always the kind of parents that wanted us to do something like extracurricular activities besides school. They wanted to keep us like active during the day. Nothing like, it was not like you must do this or you have to do this. It was mostly like just to start like forming us as a kid. And so they just wanted us to do any activities. And so we chose like what we wanted to do. So before finding that cycling was my passion, I did like, I don't know, probably like 8 different sports. Cause I went into
really?
one. Yeah, I went into one and I was like, no, Mom, I don't like this. And she was like, okay, choose another thing, So I jumped from one sport to another. I did like tennis, swimming, ballet, basket, and I'm tall. So they really wanted me to be on the basketball team because of my height, but I just didn't like it. I just wasn't good with like balls and stuff. So no. And then I did Taekwondo for a long time, actually. I liked it, but then there was this summer, a friend called me and she was like, hey, there's a summer camp, cycling summer camp. Like, do you want to join? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I was 8 at the time. So I don't know. I just discovered that that's what I liked. And like, I guess the adrenaline of being on the bike and the sensation and the freedom and like the wind on your skin. I don't know. I just liked it. And I stuck to it ever since.
Well, so was it like cycling what you see at the Olympic or the big tour levels right from the beginning, or was it different when you were younger?
No, I think it was really different. I don't think that I knew about all of that when I was 8. Like I just liked the idea and I don't know how to call it, but just the way I felt being on the bike and like riding on the parks and like through the nature and like the mountains or whatever. I don't know, it was pretty cool. And then I went there with some friends, so it was like also like good company and stuff. So yeah, I think I didn't even know about the grand tours and like even you could be a professional cyclist. Like, no, I've never thought about that. And yeah, I just liked it. Like I was just enjoying and yeah.
Well, so how did that kind of develop then? Because you made the Olympic team in 2012 as a teenager.
Yeah.
So what are you saying that maybe wasn't on the radar? Like at what point, I guess, did that become something on the radar?
Yeah, it was totally off the radar. I started the summer camp and then the coach of the summer camp, he talked to my parents and he was like, I think Ingrid has potential. Like she really likes it. She's really passionate about it and she's good. So I started mountain biking and then he encouraged my parents to buy me a road bike. So then I got a road bike and I started doing both disciplines. And like the next year I started competing nationwide. And I don't know, I just started winning everything I went to. Like it was just like from day one, I won every race. But I just did it because I liked it. Like I didn't have any pressure from anyone. I just enjoyed like getting out there and suffering and giving it my all. And like, yeah, it was kind of cool, I guess. And then you started to travel along Mexico with my parents. So it kind of became like a family road trip, like going to races and stuff. I just did it kind of like a hobby, I think. And when I was 14, I got called to be on the national team as a junior. But to be a junior in cycling, you have to be 17 years. And I was 14. So that was like, whoa. So yeah, then they called me and I went to my first Pan American championship as a like for the junior category, and I got 2 medals. And I guess it all started developing from there. Things started to get more serious, and then it was a really hard age for me because I was like turning 15, and you're at school and with your friends and the parties and like sleepovers and blah blah blah. Then you also got a commitment, like, okay, you gotta train because now you're representing Mexico, not only doing it like local races or national races. In Mexico, we're really used to celebrating our 15th birthday. I know in America is the sweet 16, but for us is 15. So it was that age. All of my friends started traveling and having all of these 15 birthday parties, and I had to like compete and be out for the weekend and like train and get up early and blah blah blah. So that was a really hard I don't know, a really hard like point on my life where I had to decide like if I wanted to continue this road, because I knew it was becoming more serious and like kind of more professional thing rather than being still a hobby. Because now you've got compromises with the national team and like, with your coach and everyone that's helping you and that's committed to you. So on that year, I decided to quit or give me a break for like 3 months maybe. And I did all of this. Like I traveled with my friends, I went to sleepovers and parties and all that. But at the end of the day, I decided that it was always the same thing. Like you went out with the same people you saw at school, you're seeing at the parties, and then sleepovers, yeah, they're cool, and parties as well. But I don't know, I just thought it was kind of the same thing. And I realized I wanted to do something more with my life than rather just like, I don't know, just going out and, partying and whatever. So yeah, I decided to come back and be more committed. And I guess it all started from there. Because from that point on, I've been part of the national team. And then, yeah, I guess, I went to 4 junior Pan Ams, which you can only go to 2 because juniors is 17 and 18, but I went from 15, sorry.
Breaking all the rules.
Yeah, I know. And then I went to Junior Worlds as well, and I was 2-time medalist, and I was 18 at the time, so I was like, yeah, this is really serious here. Like this is no joke now. And after that year, so 2011, that was my last year as a junior. And next year were the Olympics, and it was going to be my first year as an elite. And I was more inclined on doing track cycling. Then there was this girl that she had been fighting like the whole 4 years before the Olympics to like qualify on the track. So I was like, I'm not going to get in her way if she's been doing it. And I couldn't have done it before because I was a junior and I really wanted to go on the track, but I was like, she's been like fighting for it. So I'm going to step aside. And that's when I decided to go on the road, like, and quit the track, and yeah, I just started with the road, and I started competing more on road and find some races in the US because I normally raced only in Mexico, and then internationally I raced Pan Ams and Worlds, but nothing else. So I tried to find some races in the US so I could step up my game, and race against people who I knew that were going to be on the Olympics and stuff. And I might try and see how it goes. And then I don't know, I think things just came. It was unexpected. The National Federation, they gave us several qualifying events, and I won all of them against like the elites that had been there and fighting for many years. So I was like, and then we were waiting for the federation to announce like who was the one that was going to represent Mexico in the Olympics, because we only had 1 spot. So on road cycling, you can have 4, but as a nation, we had very few points that we only had 1 spot. So the federation had to pick one person, and I've won all the qualification events that they had set. And then I got the call like, hey, you're going to go to the Olympics. I was 18 at the time, and I was like, okay, what's going on? Like, I didn't expect it. And I think, I mean, that event, obviously, it changed my life, and it changed the way I saw cycling. So I was still studying. I had just gotten into university because I knew I wanted a career besides cycling, even though I knew that I could probably become a professional. I knew I had to have something as a background, because
Right.
you never know. Probably at the end of the day, maybe I wake up tomorrow and I can't ride my bike anymore, and what am I gonna do? So
Mm-hmm.
you gotta be prepared. And I always had this plan in my head that cycling was gonna be part of my life until a certain point, because I really want to work, and I want to have a job, or probably I don't know, create something and work outside of cycling, and then obviously have a family. And then having a family, I think being a professional, for me, I just think is really risky. It's a really risky sport. And then, I mean, going out training for 4 or 5 hours, having your husband and kids at home, and knowing that you might not come back, that just, it's kind of scary for me. I'm not saying I'm not gonna do it. uh, like, I'm gonna keep on cycling because I love it, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe not as a professional.
Well, so I have a question for you, because you're so wise. I mean, being so young and thinking, okay, well, I can't cycle forever. I need a backup plan just in case. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's wisdom beyond most 18-year-olds, I think.
Yeah.
Were your parents very influential in those thoughts, or was this all you, or was this from watching others?
I think they really helped, because they also grew on a family where they had a good formation from their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they translated that to us. I think it was just all part of how I had been raised and the education my parents gave me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know for my age, I was more mature than the average
Yeah.
kids. So, and I think it was also part of that. I started traveling a lot to races inside of Mexico, and then you open your eyes and see that I think I was really privileged, because my parents could give me everything. Like, I didn't need anything else. Because of that, I think that's where I am today, because they could provide me with all the material equipment, and they could take me to races and stuff. But also traveling and seeing that other people, they couldn't, because they didn't have the economic resources to do it. I just think that made me value more what I had, and being grateful with my parents for what they have given me, and and just taking that as a, hey, you've got this opportunity, to take it and do the best you can with it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I was an athlete and started traveling as a teenager as well. And I think it's very impactful seeing how other people live and get through things. And it really opens up your eyes in a way that nothing else can, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you make the 2012 Olympic team. It's a total shock to 18-year-old Ingrid.
It is.
And what was the London Olympic experience like?
Oh my God. It was, well, first of all, when you get all of the the equipment and all the material,
The stuff,
from
right?
the national team, and all of these bags full of things, and the uniforms, and then you go to the president's house in the capital, and
Oh, wow.
because the president's gonna I don't know, give you some words and wish you the best, and all of that. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a real shock. And I was so young. I didn't know anyone. So then, okay, we travel to London, we get to the Olympic Village, and I was just shocked. It's another city in there.
Yeah.
It was, wow. I was shocked, and I didn't even knew any of my rivals at the time, because I hadn't competed with them before, because I was a junior. So I didn't even know who was who. So I was just okay, I'm gonna.
That's probably a good thing, right?
I know. That's what I'm thinking now. I think that was the best thing that could have happened. So I was just okay, I'm gonna do what I know, what I've always been doing. Just okay, step on the line and wait for the start and go. It was really intimidating seeing all of the other countries, potential countries like the Netherlands, the US, Australia, Italy. They all had full teams, and I was there the Mexican, the Latin, alone. You don't have a team, so it's kind of you're under different circumstances, and
Yeah.
they didn't know me, I didn't know who they were, so it was just. But then I said, you know what, we're all here for the same thing, so just go out there and have fun. And then I remembered we were on the line and it started to rain. And I have never raced or trained on the rain before. Never.
No.
So I was like, oh my God. I started freaking out. I was like, okay, just calm down. Because where I lived, it was super, super risky to go out on the rain because of the traffic, the cars, and then the roads are super slippery. That it's just like soap. Like if you went out, you would just sleep. Yeah. So it was terrible. So that's why I've never rode or even raced on the rain, because whenever it rained, things would get suspended. So I was like, okay, calm down. It's the same for everyone. But I know, I mean, in London, it rains always. So I know a lot of Europeans were used to like racing or training under the rain. I'm like, okay, no worries. Same circumstances for everyone. And then, okay, we started at the mall. So just in front of the Buckingham Palace. So it was beautiful.
Wow. And then, epic start.
Yeah. And then we started riding out to the countryside. And I remember we got there and then we had to do 2 big laps around I think it was a park or a college or something. And I remember that on one of the turns, it was really tight. And then, the peloton, we were about 60 maybe. A girl crashed in front of, like, I don't know, probably on the middle of the pack. And because it was really narrow, and I don't know, probably 20 people crashed into her. I was one of them. Nothing happened. So nothing really scary. Like we didn't get seriously injured or anything. But that was like the key point of the race. Because after that crash, it was like the climb, which was like the toughest part of the race. And that's where all the action started because it was the last lap. And so, yeah, I mean, crashing, it takes time to get your bike. And then it was just a pile of people and stuff. And then, okay, so the front of the race went and I'm like, well, I'm here. I got to finish. Doesn't matter. Just give it your all. So I stand up, get on my bike again and started pedaling. And then a little group, we were probably about 5 or 6 girls, got together and started like riding together. But then some of the girls that were on my group, they had teammates on the front. So they didn't want to work anymore because if we caught them at some point, they were taking rivals to the others, you know?
Oh, gotcha.
So then there was...
So strategic. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, exactly. So then there was a point that I was just riding by myself. And then it was like, okay, I don't think I can make it to the front group riding by myself, you know? Then on the rain and all, but I just kept on riding. And then I remember they started like telling me things like, hey, stop, like you're never gonna make it, just like give up and blah blah blah. And I was just
who, like other racers, or who was saying that?
Yeah, the other girls that were on my group.
Wow.
Because I mean the front of the race was gone and they had teammates over there, so they didn't care if they finished on time or not. But I was alone. I was the only Mexican rider. I was there. My first times on the Olympics. I wanted to do my thing and I wanted to do my best. So I just kept on riding. And then ice started falling from the sky.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
What is this? Like, God help me, please.
Oh my goodness.
So you started feeling the ice hitting you and it was just so hurtful. And I didn't have anything for like the cold weather in me. So I just remember when I saw a finish line, it was like, just a light brighten up. And I remember I crossed the finish line. I was all covered like in mud and like from all the splash from the road, you know.
Could you even feel your arms and legs? You must have been frozen.
I couldn't feel anything. I was like just trembling and like all my hands were like purple from the rain and the cold and everything.
Oh, that sounds so awful.
Yeah, and I crossed the line and all of my family was there and my mom, she was really worried because the front of the race had finished like 10 or 15 minutes before I got there. So when the first group finished, my mom didn't see me. She was like, okay, something is wrong. Like something happened to Ingrid. Where is she? Because it was like 5 minutes. She was in there, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then she was like, oh my God, where's Ingrid? What happened? And nobody told her where I was or what had happened. So she was like really worried. And finally, when I crossed the line and she saw me all covered like in mud and like freezing, she started to cry because she was like, oh, there's my baby, blah, blah. And yeah, I mean, now I think about it and I guess it was a really good experience for me. I really, really had wanted to go back, but with more experience, knowing the riders, and obviously having a team around me. So that's what I aimed for on the next 4 years for the Olympics. So that was 2012, and then 2013 I got my first pro contract.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah. I went with an Italian team, so I went to Europe, age 19. I mean, it was a different country, different people, different language, even living by yourself, leaving home. It was kind of hard. And then there was a big team house, and there were sometimes that because you didn't do all the races, so sometimes you were left alone at the house. And I felt so lonely because I wasn't used to that I would cry like at nights just because I didn't know anyone. I didn't know the language.
How long would you be at the house?
So
for training or for meets or?
Well, because all of the races mainly were in Europe, so I would go for a block of probably 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
So that was a long period, especially on my first time and not knowing anyone. And as I'm telling you, like different country, different language, different people. Mm-hmm. Then being alone in a big house, you're like, okay. And then I wasn't used to like cooking for myself and cleaning the house and washing clothes and all of that. So you gotta grow.
Yeah.
It was really harsh because you get really lonely, and then you go to races and it wasn't what you expected, and because you're on a whole different level. You're going from juniors to elites, so you're going to racing probably 80K to racing 100, 120, 140K, and a different pace, different woman, different conditions. I mean, it's a really big jump and adaptation process that really takes a lot from you. And you can be the strongest woman physically, but if you don't have the mental strength to get over that, you're never gonna make it.
How did you do that? How did you get through the Olympics? How did you get through these difficult times? I mean, starting this new professional career all by yourself like that. I mean, that is a lot. How do you handle that?
It was really hard for me, especially, getting through the Olympics. I had the crash, and I think it was bad luck, and probably that's what was meant to happen to me in order to come back and stronger and desire more for the next block or whatever. So then when I got my first contract in 2013, my first race, I remember it was the Giro d'Italia, which is the most important race for women in cycling. So I was just thrown to the wolves.
Again.
Okay, yeah, just go out there and do your thing. And for my first time, actually, it was really good. I had really good result. So I was like, okay, I can do it. I can make it. But I was used to racing probably 10, 15, 20 races at most in 1 year. And then on these 3 months, I remember I had 30 races.
Oh, wow.
So my body, after the Giro, I think I didn't even know how to handle recovery and all of that stuff because I wasn't used to all of this. Mm-hmm. I kept on racing because that's what the calendar and the team had for me. And I just got onto I bunked. I had chronic fatigue. I couldn't even pedal. I wasn't sleeping. That just got into my head okay, probably you're not good enough to be at this level. It was just really hard. I remember the last races, I didn't even finish because I couldn't. My body couldn't do it. And then it was also a mental thing now. It was both physical and mental. So I came back home after all of that, and I was obviously really disappointed with myself and letting people down because it's just first contract, first time as a professional. Everyone expects something from you, and I guess sometimes you start driving that towards people's expectations instead of knowing why you're doing it. I started cycling because it's something I love, not because I wanted to surprise people or whatever, or live to their expectations. But I guess you forget all of that with the pressure and the pressure to perform and do good because you were really good nationally, So I came back and I was just so frustrated. And I was I kept on telling myself, I got to train more because these girls train a lot and that's why they're really good. But it was totally the opposite. I had to rest. I had to let my body just like disconnect for a while in order to like get freshen up and start again, because I had just bunked into and gone into a hole and had a chronic fatigue, and like all my levels were on the floor. And but I didn't understand that. And I think as us as athletes, we're just thinking about, okay, what can we do better to be better? And okay, you gotta train, and you're so hard on yourself, and you never want to rest, and so I started going with a sports psychologist, and I didn't want to do that because I was like, no, I'm not crazy. And you know how people think like,
yep.
Seeing a psychologist is because you're crazy. And I was like, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. And everyone kept on telling me, but I guess you don't understand until you actually go and see how it works.
Mm-hmm.
I started seeing a sports psychologist, and I started realizing that first of all, I had to listen to my body. Second of all, I knew I had to rest. And third of all, realizing that I had mental issues. It was not all physical. Break yourself up with the results and just thinking about, okay, you were like super good, winning everything in Mexico, and like always having a podium internationally in the American level, and now you're no one. You're like just okay, you're one more in the pack. So that's really hard to overcome that. And just like people talking like, oh, you see, Ingrid's not good enough. Like she was the best here, but as soon as you throw her to the professionals and like the highest level, she's no one. And so that starts getting in your head.
Oh yeah.
Finally, after a year and a half, it took me a year and a half to regain confidence and regain my fitness and started competing again and being myself again. Mm-hmm. So I made those changes, and I think that really helped me. And I was on the road to qualifying for the Rio Olympics in 2016. Mm-hmm. And I think it was really good. I was doing everything right. And 1 year before the Olympics, I was racing, I was winning races, I was getting points to qualify. So the way to qualify to the Olympics in road cycling is you gotta be on the first 100 on the ranking, on the world ranking, or as a nation be on the top 22 on the ranking. So I did that. I accomplished that. I was in the top 100 as a rider, as an individual rider, and I gave Mexico the ranking. I think we were at the end on the 20th. Mm-hmm. But again, it was only one spot that we gained because we were so far back down on the ranking. So there was one spot. I had won the spot for Mexico, but the spot that you gain, it doesn't have your name.
Right.
So it's the national team that decides at the end of the day who goes. So they told us that they were going to pick who went on the national championships. And I was like, okay, so you're basing who's going to represent Mexico in the Olympics with one race after all the hard work. And I was like, okay, one more race. You can do it. Anything can happen, it's one race. So I remember we started the race. My bike broke.
It broke?
Yeah. Something happened. The chain got stuck and it broke the back part. And I had a spare bike, but it wasn't my fit. It was my mom's bike, but I had taken it just in case. And so I changed bikes like 3 times. And it was just horrible. I mean, all of that changes and it gets into your head. So yeah, at the end, I think I got like 5th on that national championships. And then they had said that the girl who won the championships was going to be the one who went to the Olympics. But no, at the end of the day, they changed everything again.
Oh no.
And they decided that another girl who wasn't even on the long list for the Olympics was going to go. And it was all political.
That's so frustrating.
Yeah, I remember after that, I went back to Europe with my team because I was going to keep on racing there. And they hadn't given any news. So it was like, okay, I mean, it's been like, I don't know, probably 2-3 weeks after that race. And we hadn't heard anything about it. This was July already. And the Olympics were in August.
Oh, man.
And we didn't know who was going to go. So again, I was racing the Giro Italia. And one morning, I remember I woke up and I went into Facebook, how you wake up and you go into your social media. And so I started seeing Facebook. And then I saw a post from the national team. And that was the news announcing the girl that was going to go to the Olympics.
So you didn't get a phone call, you didn't get an email, you saw it on their Facebook.
Yes, anything. I didn't get a single call, a single email, text, nothing.
Wow.
I saw the news on Facebook. And I remember this girl that had been picked, she was my roommate at the time because we were on the same team. So I woke up first and I saw the news and I went out of the room and I started crying. And then when she woke up, obviously she was really happy.
Right.
It was a really hard moment, tough moment, because you wanted to be happy for her. But then at the same time, I was just devastated.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even believe that they hadn't had the guts to like call us, you know, and give us the news personally, or, hey, you're going, or, hey, you're not going because of this, that. And I tried calling them, I tried emailing them and texting or whatever, and I never got a response back. Like I never had heard back from them. So because they knew they had violated their own rules, you know? So yeah, I mean, it was just really hard. And after that, I just crashed again, like mentally, you know. It was, yeah, you get depressed. You were like, all this hard work for nothing and blah, blah, blah. You know, it starts getting in your head. And I decided that year, 2016, that I was going to retire. Maybe that this wasn't for me. And, you know.
Like professionally and everything.
Yeah, like what's the point? If you're doing all of this and you have this goal and you achieve it, you get to it. And then at the end of the day, it doesn't depend on your performance or on what you're doing to go or not to go to a race.
Someone can just take it away, right?
Exactly. So I was like, you know what? And I was studying at the time. I was like, okay, I'm just going to dedicate all my time to finishing my college degree and, I don't know, starting a next chapter in my life. And I came back home after Europe. I don't know, I was just really crushed. And I left my bike. I remember I traveled with my bike back home, but it's packed in a big box. And so I left it on the box when I came home. I didn't even want to see it. I just wanted like to refresh mentally and physically. And like that, I tried to enjoy my family and friends and all of that. And then I remember I got an email from a European team saying that they wanted me to be part of their team next year. I'm like, okay, but I wasn't even in the mood. And then I don't know, probably like 2 weeks later, I got another email from another team, and then I got another email from another team. So I had like 4 offers from 4 different teams to be on their team professionally. And I'm like, what? Like, this has never happened before. This must be a sign. Like, this, I mean, I must be doing something good for 4 different teams to want me on their team,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I thought to myself, like, you know what? Cycling doesn't define me. Being an Olympian doesn't define who I am. Obviously, it's something you want as an athlete, because who doesn't, you know? You're an athlete. You always want to be on the first step of the podium, and you're there to win, you know? You're competing to win. But at the end of the day, I think you gotta find, you gotta realize that being on a bike doesn't define who you are. Going to the Olympics or being an Olympic athlete doesn't define who you are. And that there's more to life besides that. And that not everyone has the same opportunities. And most important of all, that things happen for a reason. And yeah, I think that was a really important year in my career to make me realize that cycling is what I love, and I do it because I love it, not because I want to be someone. I had been 4 years in Europe already, and I got an offer from an American team, and I was like, okay, I want to make a change, you know? Changes are good. So I signed with an American team based in California, Northern California. It was one of my best years of my career, 2017, awesome. Honestly. And I had thought about retirement. And yeah, I guess it all came back to, you're doing this because you love it, not because it defines you, you know? After all of that, and after leaving all of that, I just started realizing that I wanted to keep on doing this sport because it was what I like to do, and because I wanted to leave something to the upcoming generations and try to share my story and tell them that first, because everyone in Mexico probably opportunities as aren't as
Mm-hmm.
they don't present as often as in other developing countries. So everyone asks me like, how do you got there? Like, how do you do it? This is your 8th year as a professional. Like, how? No one has been able to do that, or no one has had a contract for that many years in a row. So that's what I want to give to the sports. I want to give back what it has shown me and how it had made me grow, become a more mature person, and realizing that there's more to life than just being an athlete. Cycling is a really hard sport. I mean, you gotta love suffering. You gotta be able to handle the pressure, especially the pressure about you gotta be really skinny, you're a girl, and you gotta lose weight, and blah blah blah. Just all of that, gets into your head, and I think it causes a lot of disorders in female athletes, even male.
Mm-hmm.
So you're also playing with your health.
Well, I'd love to ask you about that because I know you've been pretty open about how you've struggled with eating disorders. And that's also, I mean, very prevalent in my sport as well. And so I'd love it if you could briefly take us through kind of how that developed and how you, I mean, maybe you still deal with it, I don't know, but how you overcame it and get through that daily.
Before becoming a full road athlete, I did a lot of track. So track cycling, you gotta have more muscle because you gotta be more strong, and because it's all about power and short efforts and stuff. So it's gotta be all power, all muscle, all poor strength.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big girl, and I develop muscle really easily. So yeah, I had a big body. I had a lot of muscle in my legs. So when I started road cycling and I went to Europe, I mean, most of the girls are really skinny. They just start telling you like, hey, if you lose weight, you can be better. Hey, I think you got a couple of extra pounds on you. Like, it starts getting in your head. Even if you're not an athlete and you're a girl and someone tells you that you're overweight, you're already shocked, and it gets into your head. And so, yeah, I was like, okay, I gotta take care of myself. So I saw a nutritionist and he was like guiding me and stuff. But every time it was the same thing. You gotta lose weight. You gotta lose weight. You gotta lose weight. You gotta lose weight. And I remember there was a year that I lost a lot of weight because I wasn't recovering as I had to. Like, I was obviously on a calorie deficit, but it was just, I felt good on the bike or stronger, but I wasn't happy because you don't have energy to do anything else besides training, You have so low energy. You're in a bad mood all the time because probably you're not getting all your nutrients. You're not recovering well. And then also, if you get invited to like dinner or I don't know, to have coffee with friends, you don't want to go because you don't want to eat there. And
it's stressful.
It's really stressful. So I just realized, and I went again to the nutritionist, and I'm like, okay, I gotta be skinny, but I gotta be healthy as well. So I started working with her, and it worked really good because she showed me how to eat and what to eat, and fulfilled my all the things that I lose on while training and while racing, and getting all my nutrients. And yeah, I started feeling better. Obviously, I gained some pounds, but it was strength, it was muscles, and I realized that I was happier and I didn't have to be stressed all the time. And as long as you're performing, try not to worry about that. I mean, I know you have to maintain a weight, but you have to be healthy. I mean, if you're not healthy and you're unhappy, it's worthless.
Sports only last so long too. We have to, I think, remember that. We think it's our whole world when we're wrapped up in it, but it keeps going on after you're done with your sport. Like at some point, everybody has to be done with their sport,
Totally. I mean, you're going to hit that point that you're either no longer qualified to keep on racing because you're too old, or you're just not performing as well, or you never know, or you have an accident that hopefully we don't. But yeah, you got to realize that there's going to be a point where you're not going to be a professional athlete anymore.
Well, changing gears a little bit. I love that you talked about how you were starting your university studies and you were kind of going to take your time on it.
Yeah.
And I think last year you finally got your degree, right? International business?
Yeah, I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I graduated on May last year. I felt really happy because I had been studying or doing my college degree for 6 years. So
Nice.
instead of
That's dedication right there and consistency.
Instead of taking the 4 years that you usually take, I finished in 6 because I was doing professional cyclist at the time and I didn't want to leave my studies. And yeah, I mean, there were some semesters where I had to go to Europe and compete, which I had to only take probably 1 or 2 classes. But yeah, I'm so happy I got my degree.
Well, and didn't something else happen right after you got your degree?
I got married. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on both of those. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
Now, what's next for you? Are you going to be doing more pro circuits? Is there even a thought of 2020? Or are you moving on past the Olympics? Or what are your goals?
So I signed 2 more years with the team that I've been racing for the last 2 years, the American team named TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank. Mm-hmm. And I signed 2 more years because, my ultimate goal again is the 2020 Olympics. After that, I've talked to myself and I've come to a conclusion that I want to retire from the pro circuit. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be pedaling with my friends maybe, but I want to retire and take a break from the pro circuit. This year, I have a full calendar starting on March in Europe with my team, and it goes all the way to October.
Wow.
It's a really important year because it's where the Olympic ranking opens up. So every race you go, every race is an opportunity to get points and go up there in the ranking.
Has Mexico changed its rules at all on how they pick the Olympians?
Not really. That's what I was going to say. I'm going into this whole process again, knowing that the final decision is not in my hands. So I'm getting into this process with that idea. Mm-hmm. And knowing that if I do everything in my power to qualify and whatever the outcome is, that I can retire happy and satisfied and knowing that I did everything in my power to go. So I think that mentality is going to help me get through it more easily. I have full support of my husband, full support of my family, my coach. So yeah, that's my goal. That's my program. And yeah.
It's a great way to go into it. I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Well, where can we follow you to continue to be inspired by you and to cheer you on along all of these adventures? Like, where can we follow you online?
Obviously, Instagram, I think right now is the top social media. So my Instagram is at Ingrid Drexel. So just my name and last name. And I also have a Facebook page, same, my name, Ingrid Drexel, and Twitter at Ingrid DR. So yeah, those are social medias I use, and I usually post what I'm doing. And
Awesome. Well, Ingrid, thank you so very much for coming on the podcast today. You are just awesome. I love your personality; is adorable, and I love just the way you handle things, your heart for other people, and for showing people what you've learned. I think that's brilliant. So thank you again so much for being on.
Thank you very much for having me. Really nice to meet you, and I'm so happy I can have a chance to tell people a little bit of my story.
I'm so thankful to Ingrid for joining us on today's show. I really appreciated her honesty as she shared about the struggle to switch to the pro circuit. I think we can all relate to those moments when others' expectations weigh heavy on us. And if we let it, that pressure can become crippling. But I love how Ingrid shared about her journey of releasing those voices and how that allowed her to cycle just for the pure joy of it. Such a great lesson for all of us, no matter what we're doing. Be sure to tune in next week to hear from Olympic gold medalist diver David Bodaya. He shares about what it's like to chase an Olympic dream from the age of 7 and how it's forever changed his life. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen because you don't want to miss this one. And please go ahead and leave us a review because those reviews help us get these amazing guests on the show. I'm Laura Wilkinson. Thanks again for listening. This podcast is produced by Evo Terra and Simpler Media. For more information on Hope Sports and to access the complete archives, please visit hopesports.org.